I almost quit my podcast last year. Not because I wasn't enjoying it, not because it wasn't fun to do, but because there was this one task that I had to do for every podcast episode, and I'd procrastinate for hours before forcing myself to do it. Then I discovered this psychology hack that made it much easier and much more enjoyable. Stick with me. This is not about motivation or discipline. This is gonna blow your mind. Let's get into it. Last year, I essentially released a podcast episode weekly. So that was about 52 episodes. And one of the amazing things about, of course, that journey is getting to talk to people, interview people for the guest episodes, and getting to record and all that stuff. Like, that's fun. Talking to the camera and, interacting and all that stuff is fun. The part that I didn't enjoy as much was the editing and cutting clips, using tools to cut clips and then posting on social media. I didn't enjoy that part. If you know me as a person, that's not really what makes me sort of tick, essentially. But I discovered something, a psychology hack, and which is what I want to share today, that made that process much more enjoyable. And like I said, this is not about discipline or motivation. This is actually a science-backed psychology hack that behavioral economists and behavioral scientists sort of prescribe to people to do because it helps in terms of taking action on the tasks that you might need to do. So let's unpack all of this. The first thing I want to point out is that in every successful business or creative operation or whatever it is, even in life in general, there's two categories of tasks. There's tasks that we want to do, and there's tasks that you need to do. For instance, if you're filming like a podcast example, like I shared with you, right? There's the tasks of filming and talking to a guest, and that's something that I want to do because I enjoy it. But there's the need to do, for instance, which is like editing and posting clips. It's also, if you think about this from this perspective or this analogy as well of imagine you might love long drives. You might love long distance driving and taking 3-4 hour drives, countryside kind of drives, and that could be what you enjoy. But maybe you don't necessarily enjoy having to take the car in for maintenance and taking the car for an oil change, right? So essentially, you have the tasks that you love to do and that you always want to do, and the tasks that you need to do. Now, the crazy thing about life is you need both. And if you're going to make any real progress in life, you need to have both categories of tasks done. And you need to keep doing them, and you just have to make it work. But what happens when you really don't have the motivation and the drive to do these tasks that you know you need to do, but you don't necessarily want to do? This is where today's psychology hack comes in. But before I even talk about what the hack is, and before I even share that with you, I want to highlight one more thing, and that is the fact that if you keep procrastinating on the tasks that need to be done, eventually it'll catch up with you. Eventually, there's going to be a gap there. So, for instance, going back to our analogy of maybe you love to drive long distance and you love cross country driving, and it's great. But if you don't eventually get to the task of maybe changing your tires or rotating your tires, fixing your alignment, taking the car in for some maintenance, eventually you're going to be on one of those drives and the car is going to break down. If you don't go change the oil because it's not something you enjoy doing and you just never get it done. Eventually, the thing that you enjoy, the tasks that you enjoy will suffer for the tasks that you put off. And this is where procrastination can really impact our journeys and our progress. Because even though it might seem like you get away with in the short term, in the long term, it always catches up with you. I heard someone say that procrastination is like you walking around with a bag of rocks. And for every task that you complete, you get to remove a rock, right? So if you keep procrastinating, yes, you keep walking around, but you're going to be exhausted because there's this mental load of things that you need to do that you haven't done. And another great quote that I love is, don't put off till tomorrow what you can do today. there's a price to pay for procrastinating. And that price might not come and might not be charged to you upfront in the short term, but in the long term, it's going to really impact your progress. All right, now let's get into what this hack is. I came across a study by Caddy Milkman, who's a behavioral economist, and she was talking about the concept of temptation bundling. And I was like, what is temptation bundling? And just to put it plain, essentially what it is pairing tasks that you need to do with tasks that you want to do. So essentially, I'll say that again. It's essentially you pairing tasks that you need to do with tasks that you want to do. We know that we always have enough motivation to do the tasks we really want to do. For instance, nobody has to motivate you to watch your favorite TV show. Nobody has to uh, sort of hype you up to go try the new coffee shop on the store because you're a coffee head. Nobody has to hype you up to listen to your favorite podcast. These are things that you look forward to and you're naturally motivated and excited to do. This temptation bundling idea essentially helps you to combine both. And the good thing is that you take advantage of the excitement and the drive and the motivation that you have for things that you really enjoy doing, and you combine that with things that you necessarily don't really enjoy doing, but they need to be done. So in my example, once I realized that nobody was going to be able to help me with this editing of the podcast out and the clipping and social media posting and all that stuff, what I decided to do was I said, you know what, okay, how about when I'm doing this, when I'm doing the editing and the clipping and all that stuff, I'm also playing and watching one of my favorite TV shows, right? Or so what I would do is I'd put up a podcast that I really enjoy and just listen to it as I edit, and of course I'd get distracted here and there, but it really made the process much more enjoyable and it made the tasks more doable. I have a startup called Stover, and it's a SaaS for shared kitchens, and one of the things that I really do not enjoy doing when it comes to SaaS applications and the world of startups is testing. And if you know anything about applications, you know that they need to be tested, especially when you don't yet have somebody who's like full time doing QA testing for you, right? So myself and my co-founder are having to do a lot of our testing, and right now it's manual testing, and I do not enjoy the process because it's the same thing over and over again. You just have to repeat the process over and over again. So one thing that I did is, just to make the process much more enjoyable and doable, is I have on my iPad, I have episodes of The Mentalist playing, and The Mentalist is one of my favorite TV shows of all time. And honestly, once you have that playing, it just becomes a lot more doable. It becomes a lot more enjoyable. But there's one thing I have to call out here. There's a rule, and this rule is sort of the golden rule, and it's that the task that you enjoy doing, for this hack to be effective, you won't do that task outside of other things outside of the pairing that you're sort of putting it together with. What do I mean by that? I mean, in my example, I would make sure that I didn't watch The Mentalist except I had testing to do, or except I had some other work to do, essentially. Because if I just make it, sort of free for all, I can watch it anytime I want, it doesn't really have an impact anymore. And there's no real excitement to go do the testing and get the task done because I can just watch The Mentalist anytime, right? So reserve the thing that you really enjoy doing, reserve it for the times when you really want to work on the things that you don't like doing, right? And I could give you more examples. For instance, you don't enjoy folding your laundry. One thing that you could do is listen to your favorite audiobooks while you're folding your laundry. Or you know what? You have to prepare some papers for your business. Maybe it's like some accounting stuff and it's boring and it's stuff that you don't really like enjoy doing. You know what? Put on a show, watch some Ratchet TV. I don't know, as long as you can pay attention and do what it is that you're doing. But essentially, temptation bundling helps you combine the things that you really don't enjoy doing, but they need to be done, with the things that you look forward to. So here's a step by step of how you're going to do this. I want you to grab a piece of paper or a notebook or a notepad or your note app on your phone, whatever it is. And I want you to put a table in there. And on one side of the table, I want you to put tasks that you need to do. So this is the need to do category on the left side of that table. And on the right side, I want you to put tasks that you want to do on the right side of that category, or of the table rather. And once you've done that, I want you to start to look at the tasks on both sides that you can pair with each other, right? Look at the tasks on the need to do category that you can pair with tasks or things that you enjoy doing on the right hand side of that table. And once you pair them, that's it. You now have your temptation bundling. But don't forget the golden rule. You have to reserve the things that you really enjoy doing for the tasks that you need to do and you just need some help with, right? So this has been working tremendously for me. I've also even introduced my wife to this. And one thing she even realized, she realized that she had been doing this without not knowing what it was called. She just thought, oh, every time I have to do some work, I like to have something play in the background that I enjoy listening to. I was like, you're temptation bundling, right? Crazy, right? But anyways, what I've also done is I sent this to my newsletter, and I've been getting great feedback on this particular write up because I think it's really practical and it's something that you can apply today. So if you want to read a little bit more into this and get more examples and all that stuff, I'll link my newsletter in the show notes in the description, and you can read a little bit further into that. Anyways, till next time, God bless.